And we are live. Hello, everybody. It is Sunday, which means it's hobby time for me. We have a very messy desk to clear off. But of course, I'm not just going to clear it off by cleaning it off. That would be boring. No, I'm going to clean it off by finishing up the little kit bashing projects we've got going so far, which is not very many. Mostly just kit bashing some Venator mooks of various levels. Probably won't end up using all of them, especially if I end up playing them with Secundus, because Secundus is kind of brutal in how many people you can take. The main one I want to finish up is... Let me zoom in for you. There we go. We've got this gal here, who was one of the Voidsmen at Arms from Rogue Trader. I took off her lasgun and filled in the gap because it's going to be replaced by this plasma gun, because she's going to be a plasma gun Venator champion. There we go. So last thing I need to do is remove that, file that down. That looks like it's fully dry because I've done that over a couple days. Yeah. I kit bashed this plasma gun by let me refocus that. Zoom. There we go. Come on. There we go. Kit bashed this plasma gun because I didn't have one that didn't have any grip on it. So I had to cut off a grip that had a hand on it. And I don't know. I know plasma guns almost never have stocks. I think that's really dumb, especially for how big and heavy they are. You always want a stock if you can. So I put one on there. So let's start with her. File away. That rough area on her back. I'll zoom back out because there's no way I'm going to be able to keep it on camera otherwise. The Voidsman looks like they could be a felonite if you added a tail. I mean, anything could be a felonite if you added a tail and some cat ears. Which I could do if I wanted it to be like an all-felonite team. And maybe someday I will do that. But for now, I'm going to keep my ambitions in check and not overdo it in the interest of actually finishing the project. Plus, you can see their face underneath there. There we go. Now, the nice thing is I don't have to do super detailed back here because it's all going to be covered up by their plasma guns, so the fact that their belt is not very defined, for example, is not a problem, because who cares? Scratchy, scratchy. Just mostly want to make sure it's not weirdly proportioned out or whatever, which it shouldn't be. I do have two other Voidsmen that I don't know if I'm going to use, convert them, or just use them as mooks with lasguns. Their poses are not very conducive to being converted. I do also have the Void Master with his shotgun. I never liked his pose, though, the way he's holding up his shotgun in the air. Alright, so... now we need to get this on here. Looks like it's pretty clear cut how it'll actually fit. Although, I've got one little blip there I need to sand down. There we go. Okay, now the moment of truth here. This is going to be very irritating. What I probably should do is, in addition to gluing it here and here, I should probably also have it stuck to her back. Yeah, I should have it stuck on the back there. Shotguns look cool with models, but they aren't desirable to use. I actually really like shotguns for mooks because, at least in Necromunda, because they start out pretty good. They start out with strength 4, damage 2 with the solid shot. You know, you can use a scatter shot for close range accuracy, but the big thing is they can be upgraded with the executioner round, which is very damaging and will carry you into endgame. So I like it as a gun that you can give a mook at the start of a campaign and upgrade it later. The lasgun, kind of the same way, because you can put the hot shot pack on the lasgun. The lasgun's cheaper, especially with the hot shot pack. Um, can I stretch that out a little bit more? It's almost perfect. But I want that. No, that's not going to budge. Will you budge? Nope. It's okay. Might have to. Although technically, should be upside down, I think. Although there's no way I could make that work. Well, maybe. Check the box real quick. It doesn't make much sense for it to be right side up, but that's what we're doing. Now the downside to a shotgun over a las gun is that they are literally twice as many credits. $30. You pay for that upgrade ability. All right, there we go. We'll go ahead and leave her her las pistol because I figure she's going to be a plasma champion. A las pistol's a nice backup for her to have. All right, that might actually be all we needed to do today because everyone else is ready to go. Well, maybe. Need to fill in that. Still working on the filling it here. To fill in that gap line, and we can move on to painting something, hopefully. go. Let you dry for a day or two. And we're golden. Okay. Now I do have a bunch of Genestealer Occult bits just to build out. I was kind of on the fence because Genestealer Occult bits fit very well in Necromunda. But of course I got the Genestealer bits on there, so I carved off this guy's symbols, and I've been trying to file it so it still just looks like the cloth. It's going okay. It's going to be some roughed up cloth, though, that's for sure. File that down. There we go. I think that'll work. 3 Genestealers from the Goliath set is always appreciated. 3 Genestealers from the Goliath set. I don't know what you mean there, because I've got the Goliath set. Because they're big and they can be aberrants? Alrighty. Okay. Well, now that we've got that stuff drying, and more importantly, drying to the point where I don't need to put anything else on it, start cleaning things up a little bit. Got way too many boxes of hive scum sitting around. Oh yeah, I didn't finish my thought. I was on the fence because I could also just use the Voidsmen of the Breachers as bodies. I don't like their helmets for Necromunda, but they would make great Venators as well if we're going for a more organized Venators force. But I figure I'm not really going for a more organized Venators force. I'll stick to the Rogue Trader Voidsmen at Arms for that. Speaking of, let's glue you to a base. This guy's just going to get used as my specialist with an before, because my specialist I want to use with a Weber. I put this Goliath helmet on him. The problem is that you can't start with a Weber on a specialist in Venators because they're relegated to rare 8, and it is a rare 9 weapon. And given the restrictions on Secundus weapons acquisition, I might have to rethink that, because that rare 9 becomes a rare 11 weapon from day 1, because everything is -2 to start, and then it only gets worse there. Ends up being -6 later. Dang it. That doesn't mean we can't use him, or that we can't build him and then, add him to a different Venator gang, or a different iteration of this gang. But it does mean he might not make it into Secundus. I do also need to build the Ferryman team. I'm on the fence about that because could just, I do really like that one named ferryman team, the one with the Ogren in it. So I might just pick that up offline. But of course, there is a desire to build my own. Okay, let's get you on your base here. Pre-painted, so I need to... By pre-painted, I mean I already primed it, so I need to file off some of the paint so the feet will stick to the base and not just the paint. There we go. Get some goop on your boots. There we go. Now you're stuck. Okay. Let's go ahead and get out the trader guys. Clip them out. Let's put them together and then see how good or bad they would be for kit bashing. There, I can already look at that guy and go, yeah, look at that, you know, the way his rifle's integrated fully into his body. That's going to be a tough sell. So, but, you know, it doesn't mean he can't be used. It means he just might stick with a las gun, which is fine. I like las guns in Necromunda. I think this just goes on here, doesn't it? Yeah, these are the... They're not push fit, but they're like 2 pieces. And there's your back. Is that your back? And again, same thing with him. The way his las gun is kind of fully just baked into his kit. Hello, Iluka? How's summer solstice treating you? Yeah, it is the longest day of the year, isn't it? It's actually quite nice here. Yes, it is also very rainy here. Spring showers indeed. Although it's technically summer as of today, we're just getting summer showers. Now, this guy, I could very easily swap out, obviously, his pistol and his shotgun. That would not be a problem at all. I just don't like that pose. I don't like the holding a shotgun pose. And it would be hard to change the pose because the stock and everything is very integrated into his arm. Does the sun set at your neck of the woods this time? For me, no. It's only 1 in the afternoon here. So our sun sets at like 10 p or 9:30 p.m. or something like that. Never quite gets as bad as it does in like northern England or something, because we're considerably lower in latitude. I've got Rotor Gun Man, Heavy Weapons Man, whom, of course, would make a great heavy stubber, or an autocannon, with very minimal changes. But with him, my issue is I don't like his head, because I don't like his hat. I like the beard. I wish he had a better helmet. I don't like his little Navy captain's, or Navy, oh, I forgot the term, the peaked cap. No, not peaked cap, there's another name for it. Can't remember. Either way, I don't like his hat. I like his face, not his hat, so. I also don't love his pose of the man stepping heroically on the rock. Okay. And then, of course, there is also the rogue trader herself, which I cannot think of a way to use her because she's so restricted in her abilities. And, of course, there's the dog, which if I ever get a dog in game, I will use. But not now. And probably not for a long time, because I tend not to use the exotic beasts, because they don't tend to be very worth their points, which is going to be a big problem in Secundus, where everything is going to be fighting for the points. So let me get these two lasgun guys together, because I figure they will be useful, because they're cheap. Where's the other cut? There it is. There it is. Okay. Yep, I have a good alt body idea for Goliath Zerker. This the Zerker's the really big one, right? The Brute. Let me see. Off the top of me head. Ogren, of course. Although, probably a different problem. Other big things like that. I'm always a fan of going mechanical. But that's just me. So you could do things like the AdMech robots, the Castellans, or the I can't remember the name of them. The big Goliath robots, or the big yeah, the big AdMech robots. Can't remember their names right now because I don't play AdMech. I never actually used one though. Could always go with an Ambot because they're pretty big and beefy and terrifying. Let me see. You could pull a Croxagore from Seraphon and have it be a Sump Croc that they just pumped full of drugs, and it could just be a Sump Croc. That's actually a really funny idea. Basically, Killer Croc from Batman, but you know. How bad an idea does it run a lot of Ratlings in a Vendor Gang? Actually, it's actually the opposite of a bad idea. They're very, 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 very cost effective for their points. Because now they do only have, strength and toughness 2, but if you're shooting, strength doesn't matter. And if you don't get hit, toughness 2 doesn't matter. I mean, toughness 2 is going to be a downside, especially against strength 4 weapons, which are very common. But their permanent -1 to be hit is very good. And while they are slow at movement 4, they're also only 20 credits. Like, yeah, I believe the power play in Venators is to run lots of Ratlings. Because they also, if you give them a basic weapon, which for your gangers you will, of course, nothing but Ratlings. I mean, I think, like, being -1 to hit when you're behind cover is always very, very, very good. Uh, they will suffer in Zone Mortalis, I suppose, because they aren't good at melee at all. But otherwise, yeah, it's actually I think the power gamey move is actually to run as many rattling gangers as possible because they hit on threes and you give them a basic weapon and they get to reroll a hit, which is insanely good. I'm still trying to figure out how I want to put a rattling into my gang because I don't want to run a bunch of rattlings. I don't like the rattling models, but I want to convert something to be a rattling. Uh, Zerker's huge. Someone would make Borderlands models. There is a Borderlands board game that has models. I don't know how big those guys are, but I know they're out there. This guy's smoking. I should cut off the... screw it. Oh, you don't love Solid Snake or Captain Price rattlings? I don't dislike them. I just don't like rattlings in general. I don't like hobbits in my 40k, I guess. I also don't want to buy that whole box just to use, like, one or two models. Which, of course, would be very ironic if I ended up buying a whole other different box to use one or two models, which is why I also don't want to, like, buy the Gnome Blood Bowl team or something like that, as funny as that would be. I was considering using Skaven, but they're not actually that small. Skaven are actually pretty much human-sized. And I feel like them being short really does matter for selling them being ratlings. Maybe I'll pull some skinks. That's a project for another day. Filthy Hobbits has all the pocketses. I like hobbits in Lord of the Rings. They belong there. Okay, do you have one on top of your head? No, you don't. I forgot for some reason they placed that gate right here, and I don't know why. Gotta basically cut it out. Sorry, I know I'm not being on camera. It's hard for me to see these mold lines. My white balance is way off. That's okay. Dang it. Get that boot in there. There we go. Glue these together. Now, the practical thing to do would probably be to just give Shotgun Man another plasma gun. But I do have kind of a... We don't have... It's not a rule, but we have an encouragement of not spamming the same thing more than once, you know, unless there's like a... So, what other fun guns could I give this guy? Ooh, you know, I could bet I could give this guy a grav gun. And I love grav guns. I know they're not as good as a plasma gun, but I do love grav guns. Especially against vehicles, which the Ash Waste portion of Secundus will be using vehicles, so... Oops, sorry. All right. I also want to flip your head off. No offense to Voidmaster Nietzsche or whatever. New Chaos Battle Force, which means a fresh supply of cultists coming to eBay, which means more Hive Scum. Yeah, you know, I didn't actually look at that. 1 second. Over here to the Internet Warhammer community. Yeah, it does have the cultists in there. You know, I never really looked at the cultist for Hive Scum, but I probably should just to really spice it up, because Lord knows I have enough Hive Scum. I have a lot of Hive Scum. Enough that I should probably look into, like, alternate Hive Scum, because I have so many Hive Scum they're starting to bleed together. Let's get a new blade. So I'm going to cut off his filigree here. I don't want to do that with a dull... X-Acto blade, that's for sure. You really should check out that kit and see if it's dechaosable. Because I don't really want to play Chaos in Necromunda, at least not yet. Although it kind of would be fun, but I digress. Alright, let's get his filigree off. Okay, come on. Okay. Now let's scrape away all this crap. I don't know why I want to scrape off the filigree so badly, but somehow it just makes me feel like they're more mine. Just to have the blank coats that I could put designs on, rather than the baked-in animals. See how many of those battle forces they actually make. I might go on eBay and look for those Chaos Cultists. Because, yeah, if they're a nice price, well, it beats my local store price, and I can pick some up. Okay, there we go. Okay. Now, the question is, do I want to get rid of that filigree on the other side, too? I think I did in everybody else. Wrong one. No, I didn't on her. And with that in mind, I could probably just keep it. I did, however, get rid of the filigree on the back, so gotta get rid of that. Which on this guy is annoying. So, she can't. There we go. And for the rotor cannon man, I don't know. I kind of don't want to leave it as a rotor cannon just because I want to make changes and make it mine. You know, the rotary cannon could also be an autocannon. I do love autocannon. It's one of my favorite guns. I would put it as a heavy stubber. The problem with heavy stubbers, they're less bad than I used to think they are because of static rounds, making that -1 to hit at long range not a thing in the ash wastes. But they're still just kind of outclassed by everything else available at that range, or that price range. Because 140 credits, for example, can get you an autocannon, which is way better. Or at least I think it's better anyway. Strength 7. Especially against vehicles. So I don't know. Could just go for the classic heavy bolter. I have a feeling whatever I'm going to need to get before we go into the Underhells. Good evening. Hello, Spudgy. Now, here in the United States, it's Father's Day. So I know lots of people aren't joining for that reason, which is completely fine. I'll be saying hi to my dad later. Autocannon versus Rattling should be an auto 66. I mean, yeah, you gotta abstract out the process, right? Otherwise, you know, bolter round should probably. Auto 66 or Rattling. Okay, there we go. We are going to trade his head out for something else. Don't know what yet, but it'll be something. Yes, that Dr. Manhattan moment of just warp. So we'll trade your head out for something else later. I gotta find a good head. Same thing with you. Again, I don't dislike this guy's head, I just dislike his hat. Did 8 damage to a ganger with a Thunder Hammer last week, and the guy got lesson learned. Lesson learned, don't get hit by the Thunder Hammer. Probably should put some more time into this guy before I start gluing him together, because if I don't want the rotor cannon... Well, actually, if I don't want it to be the rotary cannon, that's actually pretty easy to cut and remove just the barrel. And, you know, you can still have the chain of bullets coming from the rest of him. Still gotta remove these guys as back filigree as well. Now, Jimmy, did you learn your lesson? Yeah, duck. I'm really happy with this plasma gun gal. Nice and dangerous. All right, let's get your filigree cut off. There we go. Yeah, you probably don't need a heavy stubber and a heavy bolter. And the heavy bolter is just a lot better. And it's, you know, it's 20 credits more, I think, right? Because it's like, what, 165 compared to 140? But when you're talking about heavy weapons being 100, you know, the gap from 140 to 160 really isn't that much. I do think depending on gang and scenario and campaign, 2 heavy weapons is perfectly fine. I've definitely gotten to that point with 2 heavy weapons. For Secundus, where supplies are rare and the likelihood of me being able to pick up a second heavy weapon later is very low. Yeah, if you're joint leading the campaign, and you got to be careful not to just overdo it. That is also completely a thing. I also want to carve... Yeah, so reflex shards go unappreciated. It's one of the reasons I don't actually like speccing into melta guns very much, is because they're kind of easily teched against. Although I think reflex shrouds, they only give you a 5-up save, and I don't remember if they're armor or field armor. Because if they're armor and they replace your normal armor, then that's not great. Yeah, Uprising. Yeah, Uprising, where you're not going to be able to buy gangers after the halfway point. That certainly changes the game. Double the price of mesh at 30 credits. It is double the price of mesh. But if it's stackable with normal armor, that's worth it. If it's replacement for other armor and you can't get better than a 5-up, then especially a late campaign. On the flip side, if what's giving you trouble, better to have a 5-up than a nothing up with lots of AP. So. I think we've only ever had like one person use a multi-melta and it was a Van Star player. Most people just don't get to that point. Okay. Try and stack armored undersuit anyway. Yeah, you will put an armored undersuit on there anyway. That's true, and I forgot that does stack. And that's basically a no-brainer. Forgot how much is a grav gun. Is a grav gun 140 credits or is it 120? Oops. There we go. Because I love a grav gun, but it's like, it just pales in comparison to the plasma and range and everything else. Is armored undersuit the most ubiquitous item in the game? I would say mesh is more ubiquitous. Because even at game creation, everyone starts out with mesh, and like your champions and leaders just get armored undersuits on top of it, but even so, it's close. Gotta get this off too. Too far. Okay. Mastercrafted stub gun. I have never seen a Mastercrafted stub gun. I have also never bought flak, unless you're counting enforcers with their special flak. But yeah, because like if I'm gonna do flak, it's just like, well, I'll just go the extra 5 credits for mesh. Mesh armor, because mesh armor is like literally chainmail, it probably should have some kind of downside. Like weight or something like that. I think maybe I bought Hive Scum, or bought mesh on Hive Scum before. That's about it. When you just have some, you only have a very limited budget, and it's like, well, I gave them weapons and they're Hive Scum, so I don't particularly care if they live or die. But no, I don't think it's a particularly contentious opinion to say that flak armor is not very good. Okay. Get all the various points of goo in there. Then attach, attach, and attach. All right, now I've got to have a grav gun somewhere. Don't know where though. Who would have a grav gun? Escher kit? Melt a gun, plasma gun, needle pistol, nope, not a grav gun. Let's check our various craps. I think Van Sar have a grav gun on their... I know they have it on their house list. So I wonder if I have any left. Flamer. That's a rad beamer. That's a plasma gun. The problem with the Van Sar guns is they don't look anything like anyone else's guns. That's also a rad beamer. Well, okay, so here's the grav gun bit for Van Sar, which is fine, but it's not really what I want. Let's keep looking. Who else would have a grav gun? Space Marines? Space Marines? Space Marines. Spamarines. Spamarines might have a grav gun. That's a heavy stubber. Yeah, mining laser. I do always like the mining laser. Could give rotary cannon man a mining laser. This is my guard kit. There are no grav guns in guard. Marines. Here you are. Bolters. Lots of bolters, enough bolters to sink a ship. There's a combi grav. It's not in very good condition. Oh, I'm finding plasma pistols out the wazoo. Yeah, I've got a lot of those. Oh, Deathwatch shotgun. That's the problem. As somebody who never really bought any tactical marines, I might not actually have a lot of grav guns either. Orange heads. Lots and lots and lots of Deathwatch shotguns. Oof. Oh, a little watcher guy. Well, I should finish painting him. 2 little watcher guys for the lion. I should get you guys out and put you somewhere safe. Oh. Well, the problem is I like grav guns so much I might have used all my grav guns. Which is ironic. Fixable, because I can think of other things to do, but still annoying. Bolter, bolter, bolter. Plasma gun. Man, I have a lot of those. Oh, yes, this is my Reaver's kit, aka never ever getting used for anything ever. Well, I know if I need grapple launchers, I know where to get those. Good heavens. Enough grapple launchers to sink a ship. And then save everybody on it with the grapple launchers. Oh, is that a... Nope. That's a Melta bit. Which, Melta would be a good thing to put on him as well, but I know I'd, like... could never afford it. Not in this campaign, anyway. Bolt pistols, bolt guns... Shotgun. Bolt carbines. Yeah, more plasma. Do not have a local grav gun store. Hello, yes, well, I'd like your 1 grav gun, please. Grav pistol! Ha 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 ha. Ooh, plasma. Yeah, I was hoping for a full grav gun, but... can make do with a grav pistol, I think. I might have to, actually. So I need to redo my bits bin. Everything is all mixed up because it's a pain in the butt to go through these without scattering everything. Okay. We've got a grav pistol. That'll be, I think, sufficient. Although, probably shouldn't stop. What else have we got? Admech and Tau. If I had the red Admech, I would, but I don't. Excuse me. Oh. Nope. Nope. Again, more guard stuff, and there are no grav guns in guard, so I know they're not there. At least very few grav guns in guard. Not gonna say none, but I certainly can't remember any off my head. Okay, so we found an grav pistol, and we need to mate it to this guy's shotgun. Actually, I think I know how to do that. Kitbashing 1 real dumb brute together. Sort of reclaimed enforcer bot. There you go. Oops, sorry. Let me get a drink and blow my nose real quick. grav gun shell. And just kind of seamlessly put that on there. So, a couple different options here. We could just mate that directly to the receiver, or I could try and be a little fancier lad and cut out entirely around the let's try and be the fancier lad. Okay, make sure that's nice and flat in all ways. And then yeah, I got a law bot for Enforcers. I really should. I mean, I put it together. I just never ended up playing a game with it. I love the kit and I love the model. Yeah, it comes with 2 of them. Which is weird because you'll. Oop. How about now? Is that better? Sorry, I bumped it out of my range. Let me know if that's better or not. I know it's a few seconds delay before it gets to you guys. Okay, so now I need to get this. This is the tricky part. I can't get my stuff in there without destroying his hand. So let's carefully cut just enough in there. A little farther. Tons better. Yeah, I gotta just knock it away from my head. Okay, thank you. Alright, and then... yeah, screw it. I'm not gonna keep this receiver for anything anyway. Just do some destructive testing here. Okay. Clean up the extra. Our part is always making sure the inside corner is a right angle. Doesn't have any guff left over. And then, ooh, not quite a perfect fit, but we can fix that. Oh, too far in the other direction. That's okay. Also, easily fixed just by cutting off the front of the trigger guard here. Too far in the other direction. There we go. Look at that. All right, let's square everything off with some filing. Very careful filing. Oh, I didn't do his mold line on his shoulder. Do that while we're here. Cutting off this guy's head anyway, because, you know. I just don't like your face, Mr. Nietzsche. Woodmaster Nietzsche? I don't know how you're supposed to pronounce it. But you're very boring and generic. Very heroic action man. I'm sorry, but this is a Venator's gang of weirdos. So I'm going to need you to get a funny helmet or get out. Well, we'll burn that bridge when we get to it. For right now, let's now stick on the grav gun. Too much. Bloop, 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 bloop. And stick. Oops. And stick. Look at that. Zoom in. Enhance. Yep. Look at that guy. Look at that. Does that not look like a grav gun that just started out as a grav gun and is perfectly meant to be there? I love it. There we go. Now, can I fit this guy in my list? No idea. Now let's make sure it's nice and straight. Make sure it's flush with the stock and everything else. And it kind of looks like a grav gun PDW, which is fine. It's fitting. All right, and that just leaves you. Look out, he's pointing a gun at me. That just leaves you, and head swaps are interesting because it's kind of one of those things of like, I should just wait until I find a head I find to be inspiring, right? Rather than try and force something. And honestly, I don't really see any. I don't have any heads I just can think of off the top of my head that I would want to put on here. Because guard heads tend to be very boring. You know, it's just a guy in a helmet. I don't like the breacher helmets. I'll need to think about that. I got this one lady, like, just generic lady guardsman head. Right here. Let me get that out of the... There we go. And I could use that for one of them. For right now, I'll leave them. Or I guess maybe what I should do is cut off their heads. And that way I know I need to come back to them. Where'd my saw go? Where'd I put my hobby saw? Ah, there you are. Alright, I wouldn't look away. Unless you want to be traumatized by this poor guy getting his head cut off. I gotta get my saw in there. And he's dead. Okay, so I need to think of something else to put a head on him. I kind of like the idea of doing the Skitarii Vanguard heads. But I think they just read as Skitarii Vanguard heads is the problem there. Excuse me. So, I don't know. I need to think of something. Speaking of which. Need to get this guy's head on. Katie Smith, hello! We're just about to wrap up some kitbashing, as the title says. So this guy I don't mind putting on this Skitarii Vanguard head because it's not one of the helmets, it's like this bald... kinda weirdo dude. Need some more in there. And stick. I don't even know if I'm going to end up using all these guys. I have a feeling that this team is going to be built up of a bunch of things that won't get used off the bat, mostly because points. Which is fine. Not everything needs to get used. You can build a team of weirdos to buff out your ranks. Speaking of, I'm going to put some of this stuff back. Because except for the heads, I think I am done with these kit matching these guys. But I do need to figure out the heads. This lady looks very serious and businesslike. Could just put her on there. I'll put a pin in that, because I do like that head. Him, I got no idea. I kind of want some kind of helmet on him. I'm going to have to go through... Got the RBDs as well, but again, their helmets are, I mean, they're just Robocop helmets, so they're very... identifiable as what they are, is the issue there. And by issue, I mean, it's not like an actual big problem, but I always have a thing where when kit bashing, I don't want it to just be like, oh, that's blank, you know. It needs to blend in a little bit. For better or worse. Maybe I could, maybe a breacher helmet that is not on a breacher would look better. No. We tried, but no. Alright, let's get all the various hive scum back in their box. When I say I have too many hive scum, by what I mean by that is I have 8 sprues of hive scum. Now, granted, those sprues are the short sprues, so. And I've got this one sprue with only a knife arm on it, so to save space, I'm going to cut this knife arm off. There we go. Desprued and now ready for deployment. Boop. Okay. Let's get all this cleaned up. What about a Skitarii hooded head? Yeah, but again, it just looks like a Skitarii on there. Which I like Skitarii, but the hood doesn't make a lot of sense without the without the robe, does it? What about this head? What's this head? Yeah, that head doesn't make any sense without a big collar to hide the hair under. Okay, well. Okay, now time to get all of this back into our bits bin. So I don't lose it later. That's why I have these. Zoom out for you. Exit. There we go. Because that way I can... Because I know I'm not done with this project yet. So what I'll do is I have this project box. With all these little bins in it. And I'll keep everything in this project localized into this bin so I don't... So when things go, I need to go hunting for things again, I know roughly where they are. Scraps and all, because, why not? There we go. Just like the title says, we've kind of cleaned off our desk a little bit. Still needs more cleaning off. So, let's glue some people to some necro bases here real quick. Do I have one more Munda base? I do. You probably should be on a 32. Well, I mean, you got the rubble, which is fine. You can just build the rubble into the... That's why some of these folks are on the space bases. Because it's easier to integrate the rubble into those than it is to integrate it into the Necromunda bases. I mean, I say that, but it's kind of a wash. Alright, well, let's... So, 1, 2, 3... do I have one more? Uno mas? I do. Again, I had at one point primed and started painting all these as a test and then realized that I'm just going to do it after they're attached. Which I know is foolish to some, but eh. So let's scrape off the paint. Scrapey, scrapey. Oops. Oh, that's destroyed. Okay. Ever played Gaslands? I played a game of Gaslands. It is a very fun game. I think at that point I just wasn't eager to get another game that was super heavy into kitbashing on my plate. And I guess I just don't super love working with Hot Wheels or Matchbox cars. I mean, you can play with them with lots of other things. You don't have to play them with Hot Wheels and Matchbox, but... I have a local friend who's very, very into Gaslands. but I have just not played much. It's one of those on my list of games I really should get into, but my list of games that I'm already into is too long. This guy's smoking. That's not very professional. Oops. This needs to go in the bitbox. Okay. Hey, maybe I could use this little got a gene stealer guy with a phylactery thing. Maybe you could use him as my my single ratling. This little demon guy. Yeah. That's the problem with Warhammer Demons, is they're so like obviously demonic that I don't want to use one of those. Okay, now that our desk is a little cleared off. Is that a Hivescum instructions? It is. Let's put that back in the Hivescum box. Hivescum box, where'd you go? There you are. It's got a loose part in there. I'm going to get it out now because I don't want it to fall off. What was loose in there? Wait, it wasn't a loose part. What's making that rattling noise? This is why I moved everything to bins. Oh, I guess it didn't have a loose part in there. Okay, well, yeah. Alright, there we go. Okay, and there we go. We've kind of reset our desk to be a little freer. Get a drink. The Hivescum containment drum. It's like those joke snakes in a jar. You open it and all the snakes pop out. It's like that, except Hivescum. Okay. Oop, what was this? That's another Hivescum head. He looks to the sky and screams, for he does not know. Okay, so put back our plastic balloon, kind of reset ourselves here. Let's do some stripes, I think. So I've got my, I have to zoom out so you guys can see this. There we go. And then refocus so you guys can still see it. Because it's a flat object. I does not want to focus. All right. Now, so I actually did these kind of a different way, which is to say I masked off everything else and then spray primed those yellow. Where did I put my? Oh, where did I put my pattern stripe makers? Oh, this is annoying. I'm not quite sure where I put my strips of tape. Got some, but it's too big. Well, maybe we can make it work. Seriously, where did Okay. Found them. Just took me a second. So let's paint some black stripes on these boys. Make it a little straighter than that. Here we go. Line it up so it's do. Got 8 of these tiles to do, and of course, me being me, I put hazard traps in every single one of them. Because, you know, I guess you're going to do something good, do it the entire way, right? Much less traumatizing to some of you than when I did this 3-hand. This time I sat and varnished, so I won't be peeling up any paint. The downside is the black paint's not going to want to stick, but you know, darned if you do, darned if you don't kind of thing. Come on, there we go. All right. Black paint. These are going to be extra chunky hazard stripes. Ah, that was way too much black paint. Whatever. Where's a brush that's not too large? Here you are. Water it out just a little. This first layer is basically like a complete wash because it's satin varnished, which means it's just not going to want to stick, so I'm not even trying. Just getting it in there. I'm going to wait for that to dry. Paint a little yellow on the tape edges first, you'll get 0 bleed. Yeah, I didn't think about that. I could try that. If we do this one, which we'll go ahead and stick to the bigger strips for this one. Now, technically I don't have a yellow that exactly matches the primer, but that's fine. Actually, it wouldn't be a bad idea to put down that initial yellow anyway, because the black layer isn't going to stick at all, because it's, overset in varnish. So it's not like that initial black layer matters in any way. I need to go turn the dehumidifier on real quick. We'll go ahead and put down our yellow first. Good enough. Okay, there we go. There we go. We'll paint yellow, so hopefully, like Katie Smith says, it'll just fall into those cracks and I won't have any bleed. Plus, it'll act as a do a lighter yellow and the bleed becomes nice highlights. Yeah. That being said, I'm going to be enamel washing the heck out of this, so I'm not particularly worried about that. But, good idea. And, let's do it over here, just because we can. Well, that has not dried yet. Yeah, I'm going to have to turn on my dehumidifier. It's not drying again. Okay. I'm going to go turn my dehumidifier on. I'll be right back. Of course, we don't have to sit here watching paint dry, because I've got 8 of these. So, next. How did you decide where you put your hazard stripes? Randomly. If I had been... Now, in this case, because of the way we're doing this project, and spoiler for what the project is, we're doing Zone Mortalis stuff, but you would probably do it, like, place it in concert with where the terrain is. So in some of the tiles, like there's one tile that we built that is just a big room with 4 different entrances. So this one right here. In this one, I'm going to put hazard stripes because you can see the outline of where the buildings are going to be. I just put the hazard stripes all in the middle because to me, it's a very funny idea of this room with 4 entrances that, like, the entire room is a hazard stripe for some reason. Probably implying that at some point it was like a giant, landing pad for some kind of cargo or something like that. Also, good morning, King of the Sea Monkeys. Or afternoon here, whatever time of day you are. So placing them in front of doors, in front of scenery objects, I find is very fun. But barring that, just kind of pseudo-randomly. We also decided to put hazard stripes at least one on every tile, which you probably don't really need to do. We decided to because, I don't know, we're being extra. you dry yet? Yes, okay. Let's go down to black. Sorry, being quiet as I focus here. All right, there we go. Okay. Of course, still gonna need a couple layers. What I really should do is work on doing alternate patterns with the hazard stripes, like, you know, those triangle patterns, but kind of want to get my process down first before I... Plus, I want to research what actual ones are, because I think it'd be very funny to use actual OSHA-approved hazard stripe patterns in the, you know, in Necromunda. Nothing else works, but that servitor is still doing their job wonderfully. Okay, leave you dry. Late lunch today. How's everyone? Hello, Dale Bornman. We are painting hazard stripes the easy way. Get in there. There we go. Scrub, 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 scrub. Okay. Leave you to dry. Get all those hazard stripes off. Let's do our busted up tile. That's the one we're going to go for the... Now, this one I was not at all super conscientious about, you know, not getting paint everywhere, because this has so much work to do, so this is all going to get dry brushed and airbrushed anyway. Of course, these tiles will, or these hazard stripes will go off into the sump here. Nah, we'll keep doing them sideways. Where'd my metal tool go? There you are. So later I get to play with this and add some, you know, messed up melty effects. Oh, wait, don't need to do that. Just need to do this one. Shoop. Okay. I'm going for the thinner stripes here. Don't really know why, because I guess I am. Let's get some yellow. Put it in there first. Go, and then we'll wait for that to dry. I just wanted to say that I've got the new Armageddon box, and I think we're living for this fun. Yeah. Also, hello, Fallout Boy. I'm not picking up an Armageddon box because I don't play either of the armies in there. I've got my guard. Part of the reason I wanted to clear my desk off today is so I could get back to working on my Steel Legion guard in here. Although those aren't the best examples. He's probably a better example. But I've got a ton of them to do, so I need to get my airbrush booth cleaned out so I can just do it that way because, you know, kind of to heck with the idea of doing them all by hand because, you know, I've got like at least 40 guardsmen to paint, to say nothing of the vehicles. So this one would be very funny if it was like those triangles leading inwards. So maybe I'll put this one aside and do that one later. Let's try this one. There we go. Yeah, I've heard mostly good things about 11th. You know, not everything's perfect. Nothing ever is. There's some balance issues, always are. But overall, the game seems fine. I only play 40k very casually, which is perfectly fine. But it means I never get into it quite the same way I do with Necromunda. I'm kind of just happy to get some guard out and throw some dice down and see what happens. I'll have room in my brain for another game being good at it. Not that I'm very good at Necromunda, but 40k I don't even try. But it's just fine. I do love doing terrain for it, though. So I expect to see more of that. Painting an Argent Shroud Canoness. Didn't finish the Demonettes yet. Oh, right. Yes, the mini Demonettes. Argent Shroud is one of the sub-factions of Sisters, right? Is that the silver ones? Because Argent is silver? I know very little about Sisters of Battle. I do have a box, but it's for kitbashing purposes, so it's gonna get mined for bits. Yeah, silver and cream and red, that was it. Okay. I saw a guy on Blue Sky do a mock-up, or not a mock-up, a kit bash. I mean, he actually did it, of a Sisters of Battle chapter that was very close, kind of like the equivalent of the Tech Marines, or the equivalent of the Iron Hands, I suppose, where they're very close to the Omnissiah. So it was one that was basically a combination between a Tech Priest and a Sisters of Battle miniature, and I kind of like that idea. Paint them all in Tech Marine red, so they're all like, calling back to Mars or whatever. Sisters of Mars, there you go. That's an idea. I'd say I would explore that, but the reality is I have way too much else I need to be doing right now. Get in there. Blue tinge silver. Yeah, blue tinge silver always looks good. A little more interesting than just base silver. That's why Grey Knights for years were painted with that blue wash over them. There we go. Oops. Okay, got that on there. Oops. Setting that one off to the side. Drop my brush. There we go. Okay. Let's go back to you. Yeah, some of these boards warped. Just because the plastic was warped, and then I thought that gluing it to a MDF board would help, but instead the opposite happened. It just warped the MDF board. Whoops. I want to do a Trader Iron Hands Exalted Brides of the Golden Throne. There we go. I want to do a Trader Iron Hands Ally Detachment for our Word Bearers after the Demons for Heresy. Now, hold on. I mean, not to be Well, actually, but aren't just Trader Iron Hands just Iron Warriors? I know that's not entirely accurate. Dang it, this does not want to stay. I guess tape is old is the problem. It's the problem with buying things for projects and then not getting it to it for years and years and years, and then you do get to it and then some of your materials have started to go. Okay, well that'll look good when we're done. Well, I had Iron Hands side with the War Master. Ah, okay. So you'd have a bunch probably left over after the scouring. Okay. Back after dinner. Well, we've only got about 6 minutes left because then I got to go record because we have a lot to talk about on the Sunday rundown today. New battle forces and Cyphus Kane and the guard stuff finally coming out. I think will make Mitchell happy because he wanted the hippogriff. Get more water in there. There we go. I don't know if I'm going to like the big stripes or not. And the battle force just what was out of the Leviathan box. Oh, it's Wall Stock's last two, so I think it's just unsold Leviathan boxes. Maybe. It's kind of hard to say because those were push fit and stuff and had a very specific sprue setup. It's not like that Sisters one where they tried to sell that one box over and over again for years because it was the launch box that had all the odd unit sizes in it. And then it was their starter box and then their combat patrol for ages and ages and ages because it just had so many left over. And of course it sucked because it was a terrible way to actually get the army for 40k because they had odd unit sizes. At least they don't do that anymore. Soul Wars was the last time they did that. Well, for a launch box. Sisters was the last time they did it for anybody. And thankfully, it seems to have died off. Because that was irritating. Thinking about getting the CSM one. I love sisters. I'm not getting the CSM one, but as someone else, I think Duke Moosey said earlier, I will certainly be checking eBay for those cultists to buff out my Necromunda Hive Scum. Yeah, I only glanced at them because they go up right as I start streaming, so I have not exactly internalized what was in each one, even though they were announced earlier, but I didn't internalize them then either. Also because I know I'm not going to get into any more armies. The only one that was an army I play was Guard, and I don't need more artillery. And I just got, 2 Rogel Dorns, so don't need more of those. All right. Okay, well, that is going to be it for us today. Thank you all so much for joining me, as always. We'll be streaming again next Thursday, and of course next Sunday until the end of time, hopefully. Keep an eye on the Sunday preview rundown. In about 2 hours-ish is when it'll go up. And keep an eye on the channel for more 11th edition stuff as we keep talking about it, and some more Necromunda stuff as it comes up. Hope you all have a great day. If you're in the United States and you like your dad, say hi to him for Father's Day. If you don't, ignore him. And everyone else, just have a normal, good rest of your day and a happy summer solstice. But always need more arty. Yeah, not with those current rules.